5, okay. All right, I didn't see.
First order of business is minutes from August 13.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Boykin. Mr. Middleton, any additions to corrections, deletions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, ayes have it. Item 2A, Madam Attorney, we have a need for an executive session. Can you lay out what that's about?
Yes, sir. We are in need of an executive session so that I can advise you with regards to some legal matters in connection with the ZLDR amendments.
It's a pleasure of the body.
Go to executive session.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll be back.
Comments from DNR and our staff after third reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Sass, that concludes our Planning and Public Works meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Welcome to our Finance Committee meeting. All members of council are members. First item, approval of the
Approval.
minutes. Moved and seconded for approval of the minutes. Any questions, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve 2A. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Move for approval 3A through C. Second.
Moved for 3A through 3C. Moved and seconded. Any questions about one of those? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excuse me, the ayes have it. All right. Union Pier TIF District and Redevelopment Plan presentation. Mayor Cogswell, would you like to speak first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really honored to be here. Appreciate you all letting me talk you through this desired TIF district. I believe we have some AV that we could put up on the board that would give you a little bit of the details on what we're talking about, but I'm not going to get into the nuances of what a TIF district is. I believe you all are well aware of it. But I do want to just point out the fact that this property, the Union Pier property, has had, frankly, a pretty controversial history over the past, 40 years. When I first graduated from college, I remember Joe Riley contemplating the redevelopment of it, it couldn't get going because there wasn't enough public funding for the needed infrastructure at that time. Fast forward a few more years, more recently, the Low plan that was proposed by the South Carolina Ports Authority in partnership with the South Carolina Ports Authority. They basically designed a concept for this 65 acres of waterfront property in the historic district that, let's just say, had mixed reviews within the community and became very divisive. And so what we're hoping for here now, today, and moving forward is something that can bring our community together and get really behind something that I think could be and will be very transformative, not just for the peninsula, not just for the city of Charleston, but really for the whole Low Country region. And so the opportunities here, I think, are endless. So when you're looking up here, I've talked about what could happen here. We know that we want to have public access to the water. And what is being considered here is just that, along with 20-plus acres of park space on the water that would be public, along with knitting back together the existing street grid that was closed off almost 100 years ago when the port was given the property by the city of Charleston. You would have, in this estimate, approximately $100 million that would go towards resiliency efforts on the peninsula. And let me tell you, it is something that we absolutely, definitely, critically need in downtown Charleston. If you ever have any concerns or questions on whether or not it floods in that area, just go check it out. It is underwater, but it's not only that, stormwater issues, it is the threat of sea level rise and the added tides that we're having that are constantly flooding that side of the peninsula. And this sort of private investment, and we're talking about projected at $2 billion in private investment that would allow us the tax revenues to create the kind of infrastructure that we need to solve for these short and long-term problems. And then the last thing I'll point out, and just in terms of why I think this is worth your serious consideration, is affordable housing. The South Carolina legislature recently passed an ordinance that allows for TIF districts to fund affordable housing. And I don't have to get into how desperately needed that is in the Charleston area. So all of these things are the why, right? And when you look at, again, a projected investment of $2 billion, I think it's important to note that in today's dollars, that's almost $50 million in property tax revenue. $50 million annually in today's dollars. And add to that accommodations tax, sales taxes that'll be coming in off of this property. It's significant. And let me tell you how much tax revenue is coming off of it right now. Zero. So to me, it's a pretty easy equation to do. This is an investment in our future. This is an investment financially in our future. This is an investment socially in our future. And I am hopeful tonight that the long and very successful track record that Charleston County has in working with the city of Charleston on TIF districts will speak for itself and recommend that you approve this measure. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have, but would strongly encourage you to allow this to happen because of what it can do for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Mr. Pryor?
How many years you asking for this TIF?
Right now, the projections, and these numbers are based on a 30-year TIF.
All right, and so, second question, what is the assessed value of the property now? I know
Zero.
Yeah, but it was zero now because the state port owned it, but when the buyer closed the deal, what would be the assessed value? I don't have a problem with zero assessed value now because I know it's a state entity, but what I don't want to see is this thing is zero assessed value for 30 years. It's got to have some kind of value.
Well,
I'm not looking for what he paid for it, but it's got to have some kind of assessed value, so that way the county would be able to collect some type of property tax on that property.
Well, just to be clear, the property is not transacted yet. The property is under contract, so it still has a zero basis. When it does transact, that will be, hopefully, after the TIF district is in place, and that purchase price, which we do not know what that price is, that is confidential between the Ports Authority and the buyer, Ben Navarro. The goal on setting up the TIF district in advance of that, and there is a period of time, I believe it's 18 to 20 months before that closing would actually occur. And the reason for that is to have that initial assessed value go up so that you could do an initial bond offering and start funding public space now, before actually any building happens. So allowing the public access to the water first, allowing some of the streets to be put back together first before any buildings go in. And that's pretty crucial because the state of the infrastructure on this property right now is, well, let's just say it's 100 years of deferred maintenance in terms of public use. I'll say this, Councilman Pryor, too, that when you look at whether or not this would be, again, a wise investment, I understand the idea that you want some value off of it now, but the reality of this is, and I don't say this in I don't want to say the word threatening, but I mean just challenging way. It's just a matter of fact that without a TIF district, this property will not close. It just won't happen. No buyer will do it. Lowe wouldn't have bought it. The private sector won't buy it. It'll stay a port terminal. I mean, that's just, the port has plenty of need for waterfront, for break bulk. They are buying the Capstone tract, but they're not just going to give it away. So without a TIF, without the government providing the deferred public infrastructure that is needed on this, it will remain a port terminal and will remain at $0 in tax revenue to the county, to the city, and to the school district.
Mr. Wortman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor Cogswell. I'll just say that I really like everything that you've said so far. I think that it does not necessarily take a background in development to see that this probably is a property that's going to require some significant public investment to revitalize or change uses for at least. and to get the most out of. And I think all of the goals and sort of the targets that we're trying to implement here are exactly on point of where we want to go. I have some concerns about the fact that we're doing this at a point. This is the only time the county is going to touch this deal, basically. I'm fully aware and grateful for the city's role that I expect will be stewarding this at many, many points in the future over the next 30 years. However, I am interested in this council exploring some sort of method, be it a part of our resolution or be it perhaps an intergovernmental agreement with the city, to sort of give some portion of the TIF participation up front and then see how things go for some period of years and then jump in all the way to sort of facilitate that. I am curious what, in the city's view, is needed to get the ball rolling now. I know you talked about initial bond offering. Do you know, is there an estimate of when that would be? I don't know if that's even the point that we need to be focused on. I just would love if you could illuminate what I'm trying to get to.
I think I go back to right now, it's either red light or green light, right? I mean, this will either close and go into private hands and allow a bonding capacity and allow public access, or it will remain a port terminal like it has been for the past 100 years. So that is first and foremost what we have to decide, what we want to do. And yes, absolutely, it's a leap of faith. We do not know what is going to go there. But I can assure you, between the PI agreement that would be required, the development agreement with the owners, between the city of Charleston and the owners, and the entitlement process that they will need to go through, there will be ample public input and public process that they will need to go through. And every tree, bush, shrub, curb cut will be highly scrutinized, like it is already on the peninsula and other parts of the city for that matter. So I do think that we have a relatively unique opportunity in the sense that we have a local developer that has, again, a very proven track record of investing in its community and not necessarily at a major financial gain. Credit One Stadium, I can show you the economics there that has been an incredible amenity for our city that I don't think is printing money for the Navarros. Charleston, the Belmont Hotel, now Charleston Place, another investment, the Cooper Hotel downtown. These are all investments that the Navarro family has made that are long-term investments that have been really welcomed by the larger community. Couple that with again, I go back to the very successful track record that the city of Charleston has had with Charleston County on these various TIFs. And let's be clear, folks, they have been very good investments for the county and for the city. King Street TIF, Cooper River Bridge TIF, Waterfront TIF. Hell, the West Ashley TIF that we've just done, and we're able to get across just a community development meeting I just had before this for the Sumar Street project. The Sumar Street project, which is providing stormwater resiliency, 35 acres of redevelopment, $350 million in investment in West Ashley, that would not have happened. Wouldn't have even come close without the TIF. So this is an incredibly valuable and necessary mechanism financial mechanism that we need to have in order to have control over the public space and the ability to fund the public space.
Any more questions, Mr. Worman?
Not at this time, no.
Mr. Moody?
Sir, Mayor Cogswell, thank you for being here, and I support this fully, and I wish you luck in getting the school board on board with this. As you mentioned, there's no income coming off of it right now anyway, so it's not like they're forfeiting anything. But I guess my question, Mr. Tootin, or maybe Mr. Guile, is more so for the county standpoint. Once that thing comes off out of the port and onto the tax rolls, it's then we've got to service it, EMS, clerk of court, ROD. I mean, all the county services then become available or need to become available to that area. How do we fund that until there's some financial money, until there's money coming in. Don't need an answer now. If you got one, great. If not, we can talk about it later. Just wanted to put that out there for your consideration.
So if we were going to fund additional county-wide services, it would have to shift from other areas if we didn't get any revenues, or there would have to be additional revenue source, which would probably be in the form of taxes, somehow to actually fund those services.
Okay.
If I may, though, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand the concern. Again, I think this is a relatively unique property because it's never been on the tax rolls in modern history, right? And it's within a very condensed part of the city and region where all those services are. And when you look at what the county's expenditures might be related to this 65 acres, 35 of which is actually on high ground. I would make the point, yeah, there might be some EMS services, recycling's paid for, separately, but in terms of an investment, you're not going to have to deal with the roads, you're not going to have to deal with the infrastructure, and like I say, in 30 years, this thing will be kicking off to the county somewhere between $12 and $15 million net to you. So I think it's a phenomenal investment in your future, whereas the alternative, again, not to belabor the point, is zero.
And again, I am fully supportive of this. I just want to make sure we're turning over all the rocks, and
Sure.
and I think y'all have picked a heck of a partner to get in this thing, and thank you in advance too for your work in Sumar Street. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? Mr. Werman?
One more, and maybe this is for Mr. Gah, maybe this is for Mayor Cogswell. I understand the estimated cost of the public improvements to be about $400 million. It sounds like we're expecting that the whole sort of total TIF fund at some point would be around a little over $600 million. What is the breakdown of what of that is? I realize this money wouldn't exist if this thing doesn't move forward, but what of that would be attributable to the county? Do we have some estimation of that?
Just simply put, the way I think about it, and I don't want to speak to I might defer to the better financial minds, but the way I break it down is it's 50% to the school board, 25% to the city, and 25% to the county.
Okay, that's about more or less
in rough
what
terms,
my impression was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the county's portion might be a little less than the 25%, but to follow on with the comment, the county can still participate in this TIF and support this redevelopment, but might not need to have to participate at 100% of the revenues going directly to the city. A portion could be carved out for some of those countywide services. I don't know if 25% of what the county collects is a reasonable amount. It might be a good starting point for a conversation.
Yeah, that's it.
I just want to thank you for your leadership and vision. It looks certainly like all the stars are aligned with your track record in the Barrows. I've worked close to that area for 45 years, so I'm very aware of it. And I think that especially I've seen what Navarro has done on Meeting Street, right next to my old office, right there to the SC&G building, and putting the park next to the Gibbs and that vision. And I think this would be wonderful if the 20 acres of park, but once we give up what control of what goes in there as opposed to what I've also seen in Charleston before you became mayor, of everything becoming big boxes and big hotels everywhere. Because in one sense, me thinks of what happened in Owl Palms when they had all the things to build on the beach, from the Windjammer to Breach Inlet. It became one mini hotel from the Breach Inlet to the Windjammer. Who controls then once we give up the right? And we have the perfect partners and people with vision in you and Mr. Navarro, but who actually then will control once we give up the right and money of what actually happens? What's the process for that?
Well, we still have a lot of control. And let me just give a little bit of color as to how we got to where we are. Again, you all are aware about the Low Plan and how it blew up, and there was a lot of angst and frustration in the community from kind of all socioeconomic groups, right? I mean, it was a lot of angst and concern and uncertainty, frankly. And so when I was elected, we did sit down with the port, and I really do want to applaud the port for being open and for pulling back and not moving forward and trying to bring the community back together. And we sat down and had a very open conversation, and the idea was that the community let it be known what they wanted to see here, that it was something that needed to be less dense than what was being proposed, more in keeping with what Charleston is known for, especially the historic district. They needed to see resiliency efforts. They needed to see, of course, public access to the water and park space and affordable housing. So this was all very clear through a very robust public process over 2 or 3 years. So it was pretty clear what the public was looking to see there. And all that was laid out to the port, and of course they were well aware. And then we talked about 2 other factors that came into being here. One was that the cruise terminal, which has also been something that has been very controversial in the community, that it would need to be relocated or at least pulled off of Union Pier. Not because me personally have any issue with the cruises themselves, but because a cruise terminal in the middle of a 65 redevelopment property is going to define what can go there. I mean, it's going to have a major influence on it, right? So that was one factor. Then the other factor is that we wanted to have a local developer because, not because we want to just, keep it at home per se, or we don't trust people from outside, which we have this reputation for, of course. It's not because of that. It's because people that invest locally, as I like to say it, if they do something poorly, they're going to hear about it every cocktail party they go to for the next 25 years. So there's a responsibility to the community that they have that I think is incredibly important. So the port took that, did a process, and then came up with a few folks, and Navarro won out. So getting back to your point on where the controls are, we know as a community what the people want to see there. And in terms of when a building comes up for development, I mean, there's the whole entitlement process and the BAR process that would have purview over this and making sure that what goes there is in keeping with the community. When it comes to infrastructure and what the park looks like and how it's designed, all of that would have to be go through the public process to get a bond issuance for it to be funded through the TIF. So it'll be very well documented. It's very similar to what we're doing at Sumar Street, which is extremely detailed on how and where they can spend money, public money. And it's all for the public good. It's all for something, the design that we as a community through City Council of Charleston agreed to.
Thank you.
One more.
Mr. Pryor?
So have y'all, I know y'all just in the early phases, but when you say affordable housing, what percentage of affordable housing, and we all know affordable is affordable to who, the prices.
Sure.
I mean, affordable could be 300,000, but most of the folks that were there 50 or 60 years ago no longer live down there.
Absolutely.
They've been moved out, they went somewhere else.
Yep.
And so while I support this and I think it's an excellent idea, that's going to be crucial because if we're looking to bring some of those folks that left back, we're going to have affordable prices. And when you talk about affordable housing, and is it 10%, 20%? That's something I'd like to know too.
Yeah, that has not, the actual percentage of number of units has not been determined. I mean, really, Mr. Barrow has been pretty focused on designing the public spaces first, and that's where most of their attention is being pushed right now. One good thing I can tell you, though, that based on South Carolina legislature's amendment to the TIF ordinance that allows for affordable housing, it is at 80% or below. So it's not the 80 to 120 workforce, it is 80 or below. to use the TIF dollars on that. So that's a section that an area that we need a lot more of, not just downtown, but really across the city.
That's right.
And so I'm very optimistic that not only can there be some provided, a decent percentage provided on site, but also I will tell you, on a side note, that my council, and myself included, are very focused on affordable housing in the immediate area, and are working with the Housing Authority on some of their RAD programs, and are also looking at some other properties, which you'll hear about hopefully in the near future, to provide affordable housing in that immediate vicinity, and a significant number of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Honeycutt?
Chairman, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Can
Not
you
really.
turn it up a little bit?
Can you hear me any better?
Much better.
Mayor Cogswell, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate all that you've done to reopen this process in a thoughtful, meaningful way. But I just wanted to make clear, once council, or if council approves this or doesn't object to it in any way, the fact of the matter remains, as Mr. Kabrowski pointed out, we have no control. And it is completely within the city's purview what ends up going on this site. And I don't want that to be lost on us, because there will be a period of 30 years, whatever gets built there, the way the TIF currently reads, that we do not collect any revenue from what's generated. And so if in the next 10 years there is a hotel placed on it, or in the next 15 years there are 100 housing units, we won't see any of that for 30, and yet we will have to provide county service. I believe 100% that Mr. Navarro has excellent intentions, and that whatever is done will be transformative for the city, and I look forward to it. But I just want to be clear, the message today sounds like trust us. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm trusting the city to do what's best for the city in this location, and we appreciate your coming to us with this request.
Well, thank you. That's for your confidence, I suppose. I'll say this though, one, just a little bit of a nit though, in terms of no tax revenues. Again, you are still going to be collecting sales tax revenues off of this, which could be significant with a $2 billion private investment. And I'm pretty sure there'll be a hotel there and some restaurants, and that will generate a pretty significant amount of sales tax revenues to the county. So it wouldn't be zero for those 30 years. And when we get to the control, and I appreciate the confidence and understand the responsibility for sure, I'll say this. I'll just go back to, guys, we have had a pretty good track record of working together on this. We don't have any disasters in our TIFs where you all have entrusted us and given your confidence to steer the redevelopment of blighted areas in a positive way. I can't speak to one that hasn't resulted in really positive placemaking locations, and that have been pretty significant benefit financially, both to the county, to the school board, and to the city of Charleston.
Any further questions? Mayor Cogswell, I want to really thank you for coming today. You've made this very clear. I have to tell you, I'm in full favor of the TIF. As a child, growing up downtown, rumbling around downtown, and as a kid watching other developments get built, like Dockside up on the water, and all the complaints people had about it. I mean, this is an opportunity where our shoreline is not going to be dominated by tall buildings,
Right.
The whole shoreline. And this is a great opportunity for the public. It's a great opportunity for public space. It's a great opportunity for all kinds of housing and other development, like maybe another hotel or maybe restaurants and things like that, which will bring in accommodations taxes and will bring in sales taxes as
Right.
well. And I just think it's a incredible opportunity. We're very fortunate to be blessed with somebody like Mr. Navarro.
Right.
And he's a proven individual that has done very good things, and we know he loves being in Charleston, and this is his home, and he wants to do it right. And I have a lot of faith in you, and I have a lot of faith in City Council and County Council and City Council working together. And I look forward to us doing this. I know y'all. I know I know the controls y'all are going to have on this, and y'all are going to make sure that every shrub is in the right place.
yeah.
And every curb cut is in the right place, just
Details
like you
matter.
mentioned earlier. I know that's part of the process. And we just need to discuss this a little bit, council does. And, but I'm excited about this opportunity for our city. It's forever. It's a huge improvement. It's like a big conservation easement. It'll be there forever.
Absolutely.
And there'll be waterfront access, and people will be able to walk around. They won't have to just go down to White Point Gardens
Right.
to catch the breeze. You can catch the breeze somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for all of us. I can't thank you enough for getting behind this. I mean, you just got elected, and you've been working real hard on Sumar Street and this, and I
Losing my hair.
appreciate. I know. Well, I understand, and I can't thank you enough for working as hard as y'all are working. And I think this council will discuss this, and we'll get back with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. Thank you. Is there any further discussion for council? That's the last item on our agenda. Do I hear a request to adjourn?
So moved.
Can you hang with me for a minute? Can you hang back for a minute? Let me tell you.
It's not my money in here, it was Phil's money in here, and it was ARPA money.